My name is Kabiru Amusa. I'm from Nigeria and I'm a second-year PhD student in the Department of History at the University of Miami. My research is actually looking at the interaction between human and non-human in colonial Nigeria. I am interested in knowing how the British colonial policies on environment, forestry, and wildlife altered the socio-cultural politics around landscape in colonial Nigeria, and as well as how it extend up to the post-colonial period. This is important to me because growing up, I usually accompany my dad, being the first male child, to family meetings where debate over certain landscape is highly debated among family members who lay claims to mostly lands with forest resources such as timbers, especially lands that contain some cocoa trees, some kola nut trees, and some form of mahogany. And so I became intrigued by why this landscape usually becomes problem among siblings. I intend to explore how landscape altered indigenous culture, as well as altered the socio-political economy of the indigenous people in Nigeria. And in my work, I believe that it is going to shape how policies are being made as regards environmental forestry management, as well as wildlife management. Also, my research is going to expose the hidden power politics that have altered some form of indigenous forest custodians to a new set of political elites. So my research is going to expose how these power dynamics played out and how it has subject some set of people to the bottom of historical trajectory. I joined the University of Miami precisely August 14, 2024, and so this is my second year of being in Miami. Miami, I would say, is cosmopolitan, and because of this, I have been able to, interact with people of various backgrounds, and in that, I've been able to understand that the power dynamic in which my research centered in Nigeria is not just something that only exists in the place where I'm from, but something that proves that power is just everywhere. When I was doing my research seminar one, I was tempted to look at how Miami was planned, and then I visited the archives at the Department of Architecture here on the campus of the University of Miami. And so while I was looking at their collections in the repository, I found something very intriguing, especially documents that addresses how parks should be built around Miami. And so because of the way it was highly deliberated and debated among the elites, I kind of have a different way of viewing documents in local archives that I actually find myself. And I'm doing this because Miami and my experience here in Miami has actually exposes me to understand that there are various dynamics to reading text, especially when they are archival text. For now, my work is still in progress. However, it's not too late to start a form of an educative platform to expose people to my research. I'm going to take it a step at a time because I still have like few years to my program. So what I'm doing now is to collect as much as data as I can, and then to start processing the data so I can have a grasp of how I want my research to go. First, I want to shout out to the Center for Global Black Studies for supporting my career during the summer, because I was one of the beneficiaries of the summer grant. I want to appreciate them for giving me the privilege to be able to, source more primary documents for my research. I also want to appreciate the directors, the directorates of the Center for Global Black Studies. Not mentioning name, but however, from the board of the directors, the people who, handed over the check to us, down to the administrators, So I want to appreciate them for their support. Also, I want to, thank the Lagos Studies Association, which is one of the academic body that has, helped me to test run some of my ideas. Recently, I just came back from the ASA conference, which was last year in November in Atlanta. I want to, appreciate this body of knowledge for, giving young scholars like me privilege to test my ideas. And lastly, I want to appreciate the Department of History on the University of Miami campus for supporting our vision, our research in all ways in which they can and which they've been doing. So, and also to the graduate students in the department, I also want to thank everybody for their support. They've all been very inspiring, interesting research going on among everyone, and they've been supportive in terms of sharing resources, sharing materials, and so on and so forth. So yes, I want to thank them for their support.